All right, so welcome back, everybody. Glad to have y'all. So tonight we got a great discussion, man, with a guy named David. Sort of the same scenario with Blake. David was brought to my attention as somebody that I could possibly help. So same with Blake. I've never had no contact with David, never spoke with him. This conversation was the first time I've ever heard his voice. So before we get into that, I do want to give a shout out to my group, NAFJAR, National Alliance for Justice and Reentry. Please check out my other guys in the group. Mike out in Texas has a show called Cell Life on Facebook, CELL. Sean out in California has a show called Nowhere to Go But Up. And then Josh has a show, YouTube show, DOC TV 813. All three of these venues are different, but it all speaks to the same. So they're really, really great shows to check out. So continuing on, this guy here is the same, but it's different. And I'm going to let all of that unfold on how that goes. But again, just please listen to the message, listen to the pain, recognize the pain. And as I've said in the past, these guys, us, me, we don't want to do the things that we do. We're just inflicted with mass insecurities, addictions. There's just a lot of pressures that are on us that we don't know how to deal with because our parents never taught us that. Our parents never taught us how to deal with these stressors. All they taught us was how to run and not deal with the trauma. So, and then they're inflicting trauma on us the whole while. So these is what these stories are about, man, is just recognizing these traumas and getting in touch with them and understanding that it's okay. 99% of the time we are where we are in life because we're led by our egos. And it's okay to let that ego go. It's okay to let it go. So that's what these stories are. I hope y'all enjoy them. And introducing David.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're breaking up on me a little bit.
All right, hold on one moment. Let me try and plug this.
You seem to be clear right now. How's your signal strength?
It says I have full bars, so I think this is as good as it's going to get.
You seem pretty clear right now.
All right, awesome. So thank you for letting me join in on the podcast, brother.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. This is all about education. It's all about, helping the children grow and understanding how we get caught in situations and dilemmas in life. And we make decisions out of these circumstances, with emotions that are unchecked, and that usually leads us down dark roads. So, thank you. Thank you for joining, David. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. But just to clarify for the record, so I do have your permission to do this here, correct?
Correct.
Perfect. So let's get right into it, David, man. Just tell me who you are.
Wow.
Tell me who you are right now in this moment and what you're going through and what you're looking for.
All right. All right. That's great. Right now in this moment, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm struggling. Just my wife and I had to enter a family shelter up here in Boston. Well, actually in Framingham. I'm so grateful that these places exist. But I'm a drug addict in recovery. My wife is also, and we have a beautiful little baby boy together, and we needed help. Uh, I was, we had our own place together, and unfortunately we lost it because of my actions in drug abuse, man. Not being a man and not knowing how to handle my feelings properly. And it's coupled with a lot of mental health issues, PTSD, and untreated alcoholism and drug addiction is basically what it was. I thought I could do it on my own. I thought I could use drugs once in a while. Because I use drugs because I hate the way I feel when I'm not on drugs, unfortunately. They call it a spiritual malady. I call it torment, but I'm on the path. I'm 35, and I've been battling this for going on, 20 years, multiple incarcerations. I have 3 other children who I don't support right now. But I did, but because of my drug addiction, man, I've lost everything, and I'm trying to hold left, and what I have left is the most beautiful. I have so many gifts in my life, and I always say they get taken away from me, but I give them away because I think I just need some relief. I just want relief so bad. I take a pill, and then that pill, leads to insanity. It's never just, I never just use once. It always leads to more terrible things. Sorry if I went off on you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. This is what I want. I want to. So let me ask you some basic questions just to get to know you a little bit better. So you say
Sure.
right now, currently, is you, your wife, and a young child. How old is the child?
My son Cameron, he's 9 months.
Okay, your son, his name is Kieran?
Cameron.
Cameron.
CAME. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah,
Cameron. Okay, Killer Cam. Okay.
That's it.
So,
That's it. Yeah.
So, okay, and your wife is how old?
My wife is 31. Her name is Cassie.
Cassie. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so Dave, Cassie, and Killer Cam. How is Cam?
That's it. Cam's great. He's in the back seat right now. We just brought him to the doctors. Just we noticed some discoloration in his leg, but he's all good. We got a COVID test, and we're living in community living. We're at a shelter. It's a big old home that's been the state of Massachusetts changed it into like a family drug treatment center. So we're trying to gain like public housing through here. This place will let us stay here up to 9 months. And
9 months. And how long have you been there?
We've been here for 2 months.
Okay, so 6-7 more months. Okay.
Yeah, so we're trying. Every day counts, so I'm just rifling off, applications for housing, different towns, and and I've had a lot of great help. This woman named Cynthia, who she's like a second mother to me, man. This lady is she's amazing. She's helped me without judgment, without she's an addict in recovery herself, but she runs a foundation in Boston called the F8 Foundation. It's for men that have that have been incarcerated, trying to get back on their feet. She's like a lawyer almost, but she's a felon herself. Her story's crazy. If you ever get the chance to pick her brain, man, she's truly inspirational, and she's crazy too. She's hilarious, and she's she helped. She got me in here.
Yeah, Cynthia is so and just for the record, moving forward from here, I want to
Mm-hmm.
keep this as anonymous as possible. So first name
Cool.
is okay, but we want to keep people's last names out just for protection purposes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. So how Cynthia and I met, you know, I'm down here in Florida, and I'm going through my own issues, David. You know, I'm struggling, and I'm trying to figure out life on my own as well. You know, and I also have a daughter.
Oh wow.
I've spent a large part of my life wasting time, let's say, and I've recognized that, and I'm trying to move past that. So
Wow. Good for you.
I created this organization to help reoffenders get back into society and to help them with employment and such. So upon creating this, I ran across, you know, Cynthia and her organization, and her and I just got talking. And there's another gentleman that I'm actually working with as well. Her and I just suggested, you know, I threw it out there. I'm like, you know what? I know these guys. These guys are me. You know, let me talk with these guys, and maybe I can understand a little something differently. You know, and in the process,
Absolutely.
educate a lot of people doing that. So the first gentleman, his name is Blake.
Oh,
I
Blake.
Yeah. So he is on the previous episode, and you can catch that as well. And what
Oh
I'm going
wow.
to do is I'm going to do the both of you concurrently. We're just going to talk how we are, and we're just going to unravel things, and we're going to unfold things so people can hear and they can learn, one, to be a better parent for their children, and hopefully children can hear and decide to take a different approach, and maybe even some that are incarcerated can hear and change their lives coming out. So these stories are very,
Absolutely. And
very important, David, very important. So I hear that your wife is there in the background, so she is more than welcome to join in at any time.
oh wow, that is awesome. Yeah, that's Cassie. She's taking our son in.
I'll be right back.
Right now to let them know that we're back. But Chris, I think what you're doing is wow. It's beautiful, man. I've been in a very dark space myself, and you know, I even get emotional too, because man, only thing I have, you know, the one thing I'm grasping on is hope, and to let people know that we are good people, man. I have so much love in me, and I want to help so much, but I'm so restricted by, you know, by society, you know, by money, by lack of opportunity, I guess you could say. I'm not feeling bad for myself. That's not my point. But like you said, I wasted so much time, and if I could get one message across to anyone, time's precious. It is, and so much can be done with time, and so much devastation can come with wasting it. You know, and I completely identify with you. I wasted a lot of time with, you know, just pure arrogance, you know, playing the fake, being fake my whole life. Big tough guy. You know, I'm, I'll try not to swear, but you know,
It's okay,
you
man.
know,
Listen, Dave, be
you know,
you. Be you,
all
Paul.
right, all right. You know,
We
but the
understand.
whole fuck.
We understand the Northeast. We understand Boston, partner. Go ahead.
Hey, good. I know. God forgive us, please. But you know, the whole tough guy jailhouse shit. You know, I have 4 children, right? And my oldest, Riley, she has seen so much. She's seen her dad get beat up by cops. She's seen me, you know, breaking breaking the house apart, and you know, like I said, I was living a lie, man. I don't give a shit about being tough anymore. I don't know. Only reason why it served me is because as a young man, I hated who I was. You know, I was sexually abused. I was assaulted. I grew up. You know, my mother did the best she could. You know, with the best she knew how. Do you know what I'm saying? She grew up the same way I did, just reversed. And
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into all of that, but let me say this here before we start down that journey, okay?
yeah,
I was the same way as you. right? You know, I grew up in a machoistic household, and I was made at a very young age to know that talking and crying and all of those things was out the window. Like, that's unheard of. We don't do that here, you know.
Nope. Nope.
And what I've realized through my life, David, growing up is, yeah, I've been tough, and yeah, I've been tough on people, but the one
Yep.
person that I was never tough on was myself. You see what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
could be tough. I could be tough on everybody else, but I could never be tough on myself. You know. So this is where we're going to
Wow.
start, and I need you to apply that same toughness that you applied to other people. I need you to apply that same tough guy to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what I'm going to need you to do, because this journey, like I say, I'm going to touch on points, and I'm going to call bullshit when I call bullshit. I don't want no excuses about nothing. This is about getting to the root of who you are and understanding the decisions that you've made. Now, in the very beginning, I heard you speak on you and your wife's addiction. Now, what is the addiction?
Specifically, my addiction started off of heroin, IV heroin use. But among many others, benzodiazepines, cocaine, alcohol, anything that takes me out of myself.
Okay, so did you sway more towards uppers or downers? It sounds like uppers.
Both. I was always on.
Anything
Both.
to get your hands
For
on,
me.
anything to take you out of your reality.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I love benzodiazepines. Klonopin, Xanax, because it completely blacked me out, and I use that. That was like my baseline drug. But then I would shoot cocaine constantly, because it would, that rush of cocaine releases all the dopamine in my body, and I'm very happy for those
Right.
20 seconds, for however long it lasts.
How are you getting these drugs, David?
Through through people I know, local drug dealers. How I was supporting it, by playing middleman. This time was this was an easy run, because of I work in the trades, and I was able to accumulate a lot of money through work and working hard too. And I never sold drugs. I can never hold on to them long enough. But I would middleman things, get someone drugs to get a piece, and nothing glamorous, Chris, at all. Nothing glamorous. Just and
Right.
stealing.
Hold on one second. Right there, David. So you say you've never sold drugs. You have never packaged up any kind of drugs and exchanged it to anybody else for money.
No, I have. I absolutely have.
Okay. So you have sold drugs, but you've sold drugs to support your high.
Yes.
Okay. So with that, what I want to know from this point, so my listeners that really don't know this lifestyle can understand the draw on you and your wife, because that's even when you have an accomplice, it's even more of a burden on the person that's kind of responsible for getting the drugs. So I don't know how your guys' relationship is when it came to making sure that drugs were supplied. Who was the runner? Who was the one to make sure to get? And we'll get into that. But I just want my listeners to understand what a day of your life is in its worst condition.
Oh man. My day would typically start. My wife got a job at the post office. It was when we were in recovery. She was pregnant. She busted her ass on the application. It was she had to jump through a lot of hoops, but she got it. So her day started at 7 a.m. at the local post office, and my day started with taking care of Cameron. And we were both on prescription medications. Suboxone. That's for anyone that doesn't know, that's medically assisted treatment for opioid abusers. So we were on Suboxone, and then multiple other medications that we didn't need, but we used because we like the feel. Especially, drugs called gabapentin. Johnny's is a street name for them. It's a medication for nerve damage, and mixed with Suboxone, you get high off of it. And also, we were on medications like baclofen. That's another.
Let me add one point right there, real quick. Gabapentin, they hand out like candy inside prison.
Everywhere.
Go ahead.
Well, absolutely in prison, and same with baclofen. That's how I found out about baclofen, because in prison we used to call it backflipping. You mix them with the gabapentin, and you make a nice mix, and you're having a good night with the boys. But so and then on top of that, we'd start the day with Adderall, right? Adderall, that's amphetamine. So that was my job. Cassie just went to work. She didn't have the connections, and I didn't want her to go out and get the drugs. I did. So I.
That's usually how it goes.
Right.
That's usually how it goes.
Yep.
And let me explain that philosophy real quick for those that don't know. Again, the reason being is because the lifestyle that's involved in just going out and getting drugs in their position, in David and Cassie's position. First off, as soon as Cassie goes to get drugs from anywhere, she's going to it's automatically assumed from the dealer that she's going to provide some services in order for the drugs as well. That's automatically the pressure that's put on a female when they're going to buy drugs. Is that some sort of sexual, and it's usually a deviancy, So a lot of times, yes, in situations like this, you don't want her to go out and get the drugs for that reason. So continue, please.
Absolutely. But now you got to figure, though, we're trying to live double lives here. Like, we're trying to be domesticated, working class citizens, and uphold a drug addiction. But we think we have it handled because it's prescribed. But as the kind of drug addicts we are, it starts with these medications, but it doesn't end, So Cassie didn't get to the point. I guess she was more responsible. Me, on the other hand, I had to, Cassie became my beautiful wife and my probation officer, you could say, because I started abusing more benzos and shooting cocaine. So I'd have to lie to her every day, different numbers in my phone. I'd have to contact women that knew someone, and then lie about where I was. I need the car. I wouldn't come home.
Just to get high, yeah. Just to get it extra
high. Just to get
high,
man. That's it. And lie like a motherfucker. I mean, I'm talking like, she brings up stories to me now. I don't remember, because one thing I can say, people, we never forget the truth, but fuck, man, I forget a lot of lies that I've told. And, God, how stupid it makes me feel. And for what, it's just to wake up to another day, and while taking care of my son too, because that's how arrogant I was, I thought I could do this. I thought I could raise my son, and I wanted to work for myself. I was refinished, I was doing carpentry in people's homes, and I was turning people's houses into glorified trap houses because I could get away from my wife and do my dealings. It's not that I want to be away from her because I didn't love her. It was because I didn't want her to know the monster I was becoming. I didn't.
Right. And that's exactly right. And okay, so let me ask you this here. When was the last time you guys got high?
I'm using my sobriety date as July 27th, which is my birthday, and the last time Cassie abused her medication was 2 months ago, roughly.
Okay, so you guys are taking medication right now?
Yes.
Okay. But other than the medication, there's been no synthetic drugs, no drugs whatsoever.
No, but just Suboxone. That's it.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so are you still experiencing? Are you still going through any sort of withdrawals?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Just highs and lows, and plus, I was abusing steroids too. Um, yes, so like a
That's a
lot of that.
dangerous mix.
You ain't kidding, brother. Like I you know, like my head it gets high and lows. I mean, the physical symptoms are okay. Physically, maybe a little tired here and there, but the thoughts, the impending doom, the anxiety, you know what I mean?
Take me through some of that. Take me through some of your thoughts.
It's just dark, man. I just waiting for something terrible to happen. That's all I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for an indictment. I'm waiting to find out my wife doesn't love me. Maybe she's gonna cheat on me. Maybe she, maybe I can't provide. I'm not enough for her. Do you know what I mean? I don't. I feel so low about myself. It kills me that we're in this position.
Let me ask you a question, David.
What's up?
Do you love Cassie for who she is, or do you love Cassie because you don't want to be alone?
I love Cassie for who she is, and believe me, I pushed her away because, in fuck, she didn't go nowhere. That's what attracted me to her. Was she's nice, man. She's beautiful too, but she's something that I've always wanted to be. I can never show niceness, but she can't help it. And
now,
go ahead.
Was Cassie on drugs when you met her, or did you invite her to drugs? Did she invite you to drugs? How did that work?
Well, Cassie was in recovery. She was 2 years sober when I met her. I met her in a treatment facility. I was on parole at a place called Project Turnabout, and she was working at the detox. And I was there for 6 months, and I just tortured her. I tortured her, Thought I loved it. Yeah, and she's, we got a connection. I know it doesn't sound ethical, but that's our story. And
it's okay.
Yeah. But I definitely think I definitely introduced things to Cassie that she wasn't privy to, I guess you could say.
You brought her to a new low.
I think so, yeah.
Would you say that?
I think so, yes.
Okay. And David, all of this is okay, partner, right?
Yeah.
What we talk about and what has happened in the past is okay because it's already happened, right? What we're trying to achieve is for it not to happen anymore, right? And there's things that in my life that I'm trying to achieve the same thing. So like I tell everybody, I don't separate myself from you or anybody else because I know what it is to be there. I've never dealt with the addictions that you guys have only because at a young age, I saw and I was able to understand what these heavy drugs did to you. I was hanging out in dope spots at 14, 15 years old. And I would see these people come up and just do some ridiculous things to get high. And I always told myself then, like, that would never be me. I would never want my life to be like that because even at a young age, I knew that I had a very addictive personality towards some things. And
right.
I knew that if I liked it, I would always want it. So I was scared to open that door because I felt like I might like it, because I needed escapes myself, So let's go. You ready? You ready to start?
Let's do it.
All right, David. Tell me about your earliest memory that you can remember.
Opening all the Christmas presents under the tree one year. I was a little boy, and my mother. There's 5 of us. I have 3 older sisters and a younger brother, and I remember seeing my mother wrap a plane, and I was dying for this thing, and I remember sneaking underneath the tree, like army crawling under the tree, and then it was like
Yeah,
2
I
in the
used to love
morning.
that.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And I didn't even put a little hole in it to make sure it was. I ripped the thing right open, and so after I saw the plane, I saw other presents, and I said, "Fuck it." I opened one. I might as well open them all. I opened all of them, and I just remember my mother lost her mind, man. She was screaming
Mm.
at me, and that's cool. That was cool. That's my earliest memory. That's
I
the
used
earliest
to do
memory.
the same thing, man. I used to go and I used to open all the presents, man, as delicate as I could. You know,
Just little
I would
holes.
open them as delicate as I could to see what they were.
Right, it's just little holes. Oh, sorry about that.
So, so tell me about your parents at that time.
Okay, yeah. My father, God rest his soul, man. He was a hardworking man. He's of Polish descent. He worked
Mm.
at the he worked at the Boston Globe. It's the Boston Globe is the Boston newspaper. He drove truck in the Teamsters Union, so he worked full time, and then he worked full time delivering papers to stores, and then his other full time job, he worked as a HVAC technician at the Carney Hospital in Dorchester, in Boston. So he was never home. My father. My mother raised us, and my mother was a drug addict,
Hmm.
and she
What descent is your mom?
Irish, one
Irish. Okay.
100% Irish. Proud, she's proud
Mm.
of it. Yeah. So she wasn't so much the booze with my mom. It was cocaine and amphetamines and you know
What was your father like, David? What kind of man was he?
quiet, quiet and Cassidy. He had the
Was
key.
he?
He was quiet and he was he didn't my father loved my sisters, but me and my younger brother, he was mean to us. He did. It's like he didn't like us. As I finally picked his brain years later before he passed. He passed away of ALS a few years ago, and
Mm.
he I was actually smoking crack with him. he
Okay.
he was like a closet crackhead, man. This guy could use drugs and just stop. I've never seen nothing like it. I can't believe he could do that. But I was on the run from probation, and he hid me at his apartment in Brockton. So we're smoking crack, and he got quiet, and I couldn't shut up. I'd just keep talking and talking, and I let him have it. All the things he did as a kid. But he told his father abused him, and he never knew how to show his love for boys. He didn't know how to do it. So I always thought he just didn't like me. You know,
Mm.
and that hurt as a kid. So I rebelled a lot coming of
And
age.
that's an important message, because again, that's a lot of the message that I portray is we are what our parents are for the most part. You know,
I agree.
we can only teach our kids what we've been taught. You know,
Right.
unless we've come to an age that we've recognized self and we understand that a different teaching needs to be applied. If that's so,
Oh my
then
God.
we can raise
Absolutely.
our kids differently. So that's
Absolutely.
why they kind of say, like, you should wait, or the best time, I should say, the best time to raise, to have a child is like in your 30s, mid 30s, because you just understand life a whole lot different. And
I agree.
by that time, you should already be established in life. You should have your career, you should have your goals, your life plan, and then you bring children into that mix.
That's
But
so.
life just doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I started young, but I also I had my daughter Riley, when I was 18. But my life started off quick, because I've always been a very hard worker, very skillful. I got into the sprinkler fitters union, fire protection. Like fire suppression system. So I was a pipe fitter, and
Yeah.
I always worked hard, man. I thought I had it all together, but I was a drug addict, and
Yeah.
I was always living a double life, but I was working 2, 3 jobs, and never. It was always lying, and amongst other things too, man. Drugs aren't my only thing. It was women. It was because that takes me out of myself. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
a lot, just a lot. I just.
Well, what was it, David, that you're trying to run from about yourself?
I
What is
think
it that you don't like about yourself, partner?
I always thought I was. I don't know. I just never thought I was good looking enough. I never thought I had a nice enough physique, you know, but what also too, as I
And
said,
that's why you were taking the steroids. Yeah.
oh yeah. And you know what? I'm not a bad looking cat. I've always done okay with, I'm not blessed by any means, but I've done okay with,
I
my
mean,
wife.
David, I'm ugly as hell, David. It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
But I'm saying, I don't know what it was, man. I had such a poor image of myself because my father was so handsome, and he was a
Mm.
all-star football player. He won best looking, best physique in high school, and I never thought I'd
Mm.
measure up to that. And I always thought he was embarrassed by me. And my dad was never home. My mother, like I said, she's a drug addict. So what happens? The streets end up coming into the house. Because I loved what you said. Like our parents, they did the best they could because they only knew so much. So,
Right.
I do forgive my mother, but me and my sister were sexually assaulted many times, many times, by so-called friends of the family. They were just crackheads, or
Right. Well, we're
dope.
going to get into that. We're going to get into that on a separate basis, Dave, because that right there, I was just talking about that the other day, right? Most of sexual abuse comes from within the family, and it's very important that people understand that, because we leave our children with family members thinking that we know these people and we trust them, but because of deviancies that we don't know of, it leaves our children in harm's way,
Oh my God.
So that right there, that abuse, we're going to get into that, but I want to go back specifically back to your childhood. Who had the most negative impact on you as a child?
I'm gonna say it was my dad, man. Yeah, my father. I never, just because of the way I thought he looked at me. If that
Always
makes
trying
sense.
to just gain his respect.
Yeah, and
I was the same way.
he was he was an asshole towards me. Like I'd ask him questions about, he'd be working. My father knew all trades too. But like when I would come near him, I thought I might have smelled like shit or something. Like you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's the thing, right? Yeah, that's the thing, right? So, especially from the Northeast, right? Because you guys have this very machoistic, attitude in itself. A man's man.
That's right.
And the thing of it is, David, you sound a lot like me, right? So the thing with me, see, I have an older brother who's 8 years older than me. Now, he took to that man's man type of attitude, I didn't, because I was more of a sensitive kid. I didn't need tough love. I needed love, period.
I was Wow. So it's safe to say we're similar then, because I was too. I was into music. I was into art. Those are the things I remember loving.
I didn't want to fight.
Nope.
I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to hurt people. I wanted to go outside and like I remember this one time. There was this bird. It was me and my brother and my mom, and we're in this trailer. And I hear this thunk up against the side of the trailer, right? So I run outside. I couldn't have been maybe 8. And like I say, my brother's 8 years older than me, so he had to have been, 15, 16 at the time. So I go outside, and it's this crow, right? It's a little crow. And he flew into the side of the trailer and damaged his wing. Dog, when I tell you I was crying and I was upset over this little bird.
Absolutely.
Right? So I bring the bird inside, and here comes my mom. My mom used to always placate to my sensitivity, and that's what I love about my mom,
Oh, that's nice.
because she really she understood my sensitivity, right? So she would come and she brought the little shoe box, and we took the little bird and put it in the shoe box and all of this. Don't you know my brother came along and just killed the bird?
Damn.
He just killed the bird. And see, and that was the thing, was because my father taught my brother to be that way. My brother was trying to instill that into me.
Wow.
So I was getting it from twofold. I'm getting it from my brother, and I'm getting it from my father.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
So, and these are the things like my brother probably don't even remember that incident, but to me, it was traumatic. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we carry these things. So again, as parents, we have to understand that each child learns and grows differently.
And
some may be receptive to that tough love.
Absolutely.
Some may not, but it's just knowing our children and understanding how that child learns best. So
that's why I'm careful. That's why I'm careful with my children, and I let them know how much I love them. Even my son Connor, he likes science, and I embrace anything as long as he doesn't. I tell them about the dangers of drugs and about my life, and I'm very open with my children to a degree, of course. I embrace sensitivity because I was that kid too. I shot a bird once, and I still to this day hate the way I feel over it. I'll never forget it. It was just that just made me think of that incident.
Well, when you have that instinctual guilt of taking another life, no matter what the life is, that means that your spirit is somewhat aligned with universal law. So you're not far off from where you need to be at, David, because if you feel emotion and you feel guilt over taking life, that means you have a lot of care in your heart.
I do.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow, that's cool. I never knew that.
So you have a lot of positive things to look at. I'm sitting here and I'm talking to, and I'm like, well, what is this guy's issue for real? Because you don't sound too bad, partner, for real.
Thanks.
Your current position may be bad, but this is only a fragment of time. You see what I'm saying? And you understand how you got here.
I do.
And it sounds like you're accepting that responsibility.
You
know what I mean?
I am. Listen. I have no more. I don't have any delusions anymore at all. I'm completely open. Whether it be help or change, whatever I need to do, I plan on doing it. I don't blood, sweat, and tears, man, because I am a good person. I know that about myself because I do care. Cynthia, in fact, she calls me an empathic soul. I just found out about that. I hear that word a lot, and I am very empathic, and I but something has to change, and I'm trying to identify, like I said, whether it be mental health or whatever. I'm trying to chime in on all of it so I can be part of life. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to waste any more time.
When was at what age, David, did you know that your mom was a drug addict?
Probably about 11. I was like 10 or 11 because I used to hear my grandmother call her a drug addict all the time. In Boston lingo, you fucking junkie, you fucking crackhead, you fucking crackhead.
And this is her mother or your father's mother that's calling her that?
That was her mother, and that's how they responded.
Okay.
That's how they responded to each other. A lot of
that's the Irish way.
Just the Irish way. Everything was, the C word and the F word, and that's just how it flowed. But my mother was a very caring person too, and she was stuck in it, man. And she's doing okay now. It's crazy. My mother had $1 million on a scratch ticket. She gave half. She gave it all away pretty much. You know what I'm saying? She didn't know how to handle that kind of money. She gave each of us, out of 5 of us, she gave each of us $10,000, and I don't know what she did with the rest. But still, to this day, I call my mother all the time, and no matter what I ask, if I ask for something, she tries to get it. I think she has a lot of guilt too.
I'm sure she does.
She does.
I'm sure she does. And we have to recognize that as well, as her as a human being, not just your mother, but her as a human being that is probably carrying a lot of anguish and guilt herself, you know?
For sure.
So, well, how did that make you feel? Okay, so you see your grandmother calling your mother a junkie. Did you know what a junkie was at that time?
No. It made me afraid.
So how?
It made me afraid.
So how did you find out? Like, okay, so you hear your grandmother calling your mother a junkie. What do you do then? Do you go and hey, what is a junkie? Or
I'd say no. I'd ask her. I'd say, Ma, you know, I'd say, why is great? You know, she's just mad at me. She's just mad at me. I'd say, you know, I thought a junkie. I was like, so do you go hang out in a junkyard at night? Like, you know what I mean? As a kid, yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, right.
I didn't get it. And she just said, you know,
right.
she would just say, you know, your grandmother's just mad. It's just something that she says. It's just something that she says. But I asked my grandmother, and you know, she said your mother struggles with drugs. So is she a drug addict? You know, yes, your mother's a drug addict. And it, you know, made a lot of sense to me. It just clicked. Drugs were so prevalent in my life, you know, because in my family, drug addicts were calling each other drug addicts, you know, but there was just different things. Xanax and Percocets were okay because it was from the doctors, but they'd hand them out amongst family. It was like the fucking Port of Miami, you know, amongst each other, you know. It was always just pills. There was a pill for everything. If we were getting on a plane, there's a pill. You know, I had pills for everything, for anxiety. I didn't even know I had anxiety, but I knew there was a pill for something.
When was the first time you got high on anything?
First time I got high was I was 11 years old. It was my 11th birthday, and I smoked a joint. My best friend Brendan growing up, and you know, I was lying my ass off. I had already thought drugs were cool by this point, because I said, you know, oh yeah, I smoke weed all the time. I smoked weed and I freaked the fuck out. I freaked out. I had a panic attack, and I ran home. I was crying to my mother. I thought I was dying, and you know what I mean? And oh man, my sisters were torturing me, and but there was a pill for it. My mother gave me a Xanax to calm down, and that pill, I'll never forget the feeling that gave me. That a benzo gave me, that all my fear, anything I cared deep, that took everything away. I felt like I found myself. I thought, you know, benzos. I felt like I was made of steel. Nothing could hurt me. Nothing.
So your first experience with a euphoric high was from your mother?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And the gentleman that I spoke with earlier, Blake, do you know who got him high the first time?
I'm going to say his mom.
And I have another episode on here of a woman named Mercedes, who was 23 years old, strung out, selling herself to get high off crack. Do you know who got her high the first time?
Her mother.
Her mother.
It's terrible, man.
You know,
terrible.
Of course, because, and I think that's because us as men, we're stronger at holding emotions in, I guess you can say. We're stronger at bearing emotions, bearing pain, and being able to burden that, where women seem to be more of a sensitive type, of course, and they want others to relish in the pain with them, maybe, if that's safe to say.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. It's more accepting for a woman to be like that.
And yes, they bring their children in, and I really think, because I've seen it from both sides. I've seen it because the mother does not want to get high by herself, or she don't want her son or her child to be successful. Like, she's jealous of her child. You know, I've seen where the mother has been jealous of the child because the child may have somewhat of a better life than what the mother has, or trying to make a better life, and the mother will try to hold that child down. So
that's terrible. That's a sin.
But the key point of it is, right, of all of this is, from what I've been finding from talking to people, from my own experiences and things of that nature, is when that trauma to you occurred, because that's what it was trauma. It was traumatic for you to find out that your mother was a junkie.
Yeah.
You see?
Yep.
And when that happens, one, it strikes curiosity in us, right? Like, why does my mother have to do this? And I want to see why she has to do it, and such as was in Blake's case, you know?
Yeah.
So what, after you took that benzo and you felt that, what happened after that?
I ended up like working for my mother, I guess you could say. I became closer to my mother on another level, almost on almost on like a street level. Do you know what I'm saying? Because my mother did things,
right?
You know, my mother was a thief, and she sold herself as well. So I was always, breaking into places for my mother, hustling people, creating diversions, switching tags at stores. Do you know what I mean? I bonded with my mom over drugs, and then I started fighting at a very young age because I thought I had to. Believe me, and like yourself, Chris, I hated fighting. I despised it, but I did it, and I did it, and I did it, and I would take from people.
And what age was all of this going on at?
From like 11 to 15 was a lot. Was when a lot of things were happening. A lot of things between my mother and I, and then it wasn't just for benzos. It was selling Percocets, the higher milligram Percocets. And my mother was having relations with doctors, and my mother was making me go to doctors to get prescriptions for her, and I would do it, because no matter what, even if it sounded crazy, I did it. Because my mother, I just always believed her, no matter what.
Sure, and it's going to give you, and I'm sure you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure it gave you a rush to be able to provide for your mother.
Oh, I felt like, it did. It did.
You felt like a king. You felt like Superman.
Like I was the shit. Like I thought I was gonna be Whitey Bulger. You know what I'm saying? Like I thought I was gonna be like. Do you think that euphoric feeling, that strong euphoric feeling of providing for your mother, was also being impacted from not providing for your father, not feeling like you're living up to your father, but now you have your mother and you're making your mother happy, and she's probably giving you hugs and all that stuff when you're coming in with the pills or whatever. It completely leveled the playing field. Like I didn't give.
That's what I'm trying to say.
You're exactly right. I'm happy you said that. I didn't give a fuck anymore about my father. I didn't. But my father's values and morals, I completely discarded too. My father believed in hard work. He believed in family. He believed in staying faithful and loyal. My mother was completely different. These two people couldn't have been more opposite. And I started to, I took on my mother's values, my, better you than me kind of thing, like she was very caring, but it was, I don't know. I felt like I lived I felt like a walking contradiction. Do you know what I mean?
I do, brother. So is it safe to say, this is the type of household? Let me see if I have your household kind of right, I guess, in my head. So your father, he was a hard worker. He'd go out, he would get his check, and he was what you would call, I guess, a weekend warrior. just get high on the weekends, and then that's it. Go back to work for the rest of the week.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then your mom is just constantly trying to chase a high and just get high. And she's doing whatever she can do to accomplish that.
Yes.
Now, was your father aware that your mother was doing these extracurricular activities for drugs?
No, because my father would believe my mother. My father came, like I said, my father's Polish, and he lived and acted like, my Bob, that's Polish for grandma, my Java, they stayed together no matter what, in the old country. So my father brought his values over to America, to Boston. My mother would make up stories. She would open lines of credit. He didn't know. He just believed her. Okay, don't worry, Richie. His name was Richard. Don't worry, Richie. Don't worry. Everything's fine. And he didn't ask questions. And it did come to a point though when he found another man in bed with my mother, and he didn't hurt this man because this man was in his late 70s. This guy was a millionaire. That's how my parents got divorced. So my father just went back to his drug, which was working. He just picked up another shift.
Poured himself in the work.
That's it. And my father believed in that. My father, those morals, he left. My father had a pension of $6,000 a month, and he left that to my mother. Still, he was true to his word, man. He was like, I married her, so after all the shit she did to him, he still. I don't know if it was love or if it was just his belief, but he left.
So when did you graduate off the benzos?
Oh, I never graduated off it, but I stuck a needle in my arm for the first time at 21.
And that was the benzos. You shot the benzos?
No, I shot heroin. Because
heroin, okay. Yeah. How did that transition happen?
From OxyContin, my mother got real involved with OCs, they were called on the street, or jams or whatever, but they were highly addictive. And my mother abused those, because of her back pain, because of her relations with doctors and whatever, so of course I used them too, but my habit got insane. I was trying to get on the fire department. I was trying to provide for my wife back then. I was with someone else. When my daughter was born, I was working and trying to start my life, but maintain a drug habit. But then out of nowhere, I mean, these pills were like a hurricane, at least through Boston, OCs, and they got real expensive. An OC 80, which is 80 milligrams, was $80 a pill, and I was doing about 1080s a day. And then I found out through people I know that a bag of heroin was $40. It was 10 times the high, and a lot cheaper at first, obviously, because it progresses, but it made more sense to spend $40 on a better high than to spend $2,000 on a mediocre high. You know what I'm saying?
And how are you getting this money? How are you supporting 10 of those pills a day?
At the time was by selling them, by selling them, by getting a 10 pack for 10 of them for $600, selling a certain amount, or coming up on a lick, robbing somebody, or robbing a drug dealer was a big one, because you only needed 2 or 3 of your friends to fucking tie somebody up. You know what I mean? And
all right, so take me through a day at David in Boston. You wake up, you have no dope, and you have no money, but you have cravings. What does that day look like?
It's a dark day, my friend. That's when I call my mother and say, Ma, what can we do? Would brainstorm, and then it would usually involve, but I always planned ahead, just because waking up dope sick was I couldn't do it. I had to go to work. So it was breaking into, like, my mother had a place of employment where she worked. And then that, like, those her employers would leave cash for the bread guy, so that's one thing I could steal. I had all these little hustles, I'd rob that, my mother and I would rob that would get us up to $600. I'd buy I'd sell fake.
Well, open somebody's house, because what I want you to remember, David, is my listeners may be on the other side of your hustles. You see what I'm saying? They may be the
ones that were
the individual the ones that were affected. So this is what I really want to exploit is how were these hustles applied for you to get money just to get your high?
What do you mean? So just how I did?
Okay, for instance, let me tell you about this dude that I knew, Ronnie. Right now, this was back in the day, and he was up in New York. He was up in the city. Now, what his hustle was, right, was he had, and these were only on certain days, So like you, when you say that you planned ahead, I want to explain that as well. So I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong again, David, but I think what you mean, like when you say I always planned ahead. So when you have an addiction and you don't want to wake up with no dope, you always have that wake up high, and then you can function, and then you can go hustle, and then you can try to work on some more. But you always have to have that morning high first, right?
No matter what.
And that's what you mean by planning ahead,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So how Ronnie did his hustle back in the day, he had a 1-900 number, and you could put like whatever price on that 1-900 number that you wanted,
Really?
So he robbed a UPS guy, took his uniform. Okay.
My gosh.
This dude would get a huge box, and he would walk around in the city to like large buildings, large corporate buildings, things like that. And he would walk down right up to the receptionist with his UPS uniform on. And he would just ask for a name. And the people, they would either say, we don't have nobody here by that, that name or whatever. And he would tell the people, he would say, well, can I use your phone real quick to call and figure out what's going on with this delivery or whatever? The people would let him use the phone. He would just call his 1-900 number, put it on hold, and hang the phone up.
Oh, my God.
Sometimes the phone would stay on hold for 30 minutes. Sometimes it'd stay on for an hour. Sometimes it'd be on for like a minute. But he's collecting money that whole time to an account.
Wow.
And this was his hustle. And it just amazes me how the point of me sharing that is how you come up with schemes to get money just to get high.
Oh my God, man! Listen, and schemes. I can tell you something I'm not proud of either, man. I mean, I've told people at a young age. Me and my mother had people, convinced that I was and this pains me to say this, but I say this just because maybe somebody else out there did this and they hate the way they feel over it. But man, I told people I had cancer, I was dying, and I needed X amount of money for a treatment or, something medical. But man, and I can't believe I did that, but I profited off it. I'm talking up to $8,000, and this was before the whole GoFundMe things, and this was all just word.
Yep.
This was all word of mouth, just making people feel bad and reaching.
Yep.
It's terrible, man. And I wish I had, I wish I could say, I had these glamorous hustles, but I didn't, man. I stole from anyone. I stole money out of people's purses. I'd go to my friend's house and I know that they weren't home. I'd say, hey, can I use the bathroom real quick? I'd go in, I'd take all the medications, go sell the medications. Do you know what I'm saying? Like nothing.
I do.
Nothing,
and the thing about, and the thing I want people to understand, it was never personal.
No.
Like if you see some old lady's purse laying on a table, right? What is your thought right there? You see a lady who's dressed nicely. It's a nice purse and her back is turned. She's ordering coffee at Dunkin' Donuts and her purse is sitting right on the table. You're shaking. You're hungry. You know what I mean? You're going through
I'm
withdrawals.
grabbing it. I'm running. I'm grabbing that bag
And
as I can.
what is your thought when you're grabbing that bag? Is it that against the lady?
Nope. The thought is that David's not going to be sick in about 10 minutes. That's the hope, at least.
That's right.
That's the hope.
Just to stop that sickness, man.
Just to not be
That's
sick,
right.
man. And that is, it's a real thing, man. I mean, I have horror stories of what I put myself through for drugs. Things that, things I can't come back from, and things that still haunt me to this day. Night terrors, and believe me, man, that's why I'm
Yeah, people
journey.
People don't understand, and this is real, man. This is a real thing. And that's why I say when somebody sits here and they say, clean your, David, come on, man, clean yourself up and go get a job. And they say it like it's so easy,
And I can't. It's been so long of this now. I can't even waste my energy on trying to explain to someone, or I don't even have anger for this person anymore. I mean, do people really think that I love being homeless, and I'm being sarcastic. Like, come here.
Right.
I'm dying to sleep next to some fucking weird guy that stinks because he has more cardboard to share with me. Even if he'll let me, I gotta promise him a crack just to get some of his fucking cardboard while my kids are at home crying, wondering where their dad is. Or like, do you know what I mean? Like do it for your kids. I would love to. I would fucking love to. I never once, as a young boy, I never once thought life would be pain. I never thought it would be this much pain, but it is. It was never a choice for me. It never felt like one. It never felt like a choice. Yeah, you're right. Clean the fuck up, get a job, be a man. I'd love to, but
Mm-hmm.
I'd love.
Well, it's like I told Blake, David. The most important thing that you need to understand at this point is you didn't have a choice, right? You did not have a choice, because these even a year ago, 2 years ago, when you were still in your worst, it was just a continuation of trauma from a kid. That's all it was. So you were forced into a situation that you never really had a choice about, but you made a choice. Your choice was to end all of this crap, right? That was David's choice. That was nobody else's choice. So David chose to do that. Why did you make that choice, David?
Why did I make the choice? What, to get better?
Why did you make the choice? What was it that drove you to change? And why did you make that choice? Yeah.
Because I love my children. And I started to get my children back regularly. And I saw my son was so fucking devastated. He was so upset with me that I relapsed. Because Cassie had to leave. She took my youngest son Cameron and left our apartment. She was afraid of me. I was in a blackout psychosis, breaking up the house, trying to get, I scared her. I put my hands on her.
You were going through withdrawals?
No, I was in a psychosis. I shot so much. I was shooting so much. I was putting so much cocaine into my body that I became, I don't remember. And I was mixing it with benzos and Adderalls and
you're lucky to be alive, partner.
Well, brother, I have over 60 overdoses. I don't know how I'm alive. I don't know how, but it was seeing it was hearing the pain and the anger in my son's voice, man. I can't get it out of my head. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't get it out of my head, man.
That's what changed my life, partner. My child changed my life. That's when I realized, like, it wasn't about me anymore. I have a child that's depending on me to guide them through this life that I know is pure fucking hell. You know what I mean? And not only that, but I was absent the first 12 years of her life. You see what I'm saying? So it you know, I'm in a dilemma myself, you know, that I'm trying to work through. So this is where we're at right now. You know, from what I hear, David, you're strong. You're a strong man, right? And you know what you want, and you want to move there. You know, you want to start moving forward, right? And the position that you're in it. You at least you have shelter for the next 6 or 7 months, correct?
Correct.
Okay. How much money do you have coming in?
About $200 a week from unemployment.
How much goes out?
$80 goes to my daughter in Portland, Maine. I give $80 of that, but they're not charging me rent here. But hopefully they'll let me start working soon. You know what I mean? But being here, I'm trying to obtain, you know, housing through like a housing authority. I don't know what it's called in Florida, but like public.
It's HUD. It's HUD. Yeah.
Yeah, Section 8. I'm trying to get Section 8
Yep.
too. You know, so I'm trying to do all that. Yeah, I'm trying to get as much assistance as possible because, man, I burnt all my other bridges, man. I don't have any money saved up. You know, I'm trying to start new. You know.
Okay.
And that's what I'm trying to do. And
what are your fears right now?
My fears are going back to jail because I have a court case next month. That's my fears. My fear is getting kicked out of this place. You know, because of, you know, somebody not disrespecting me or you just know. I always get afraid around a bunch of people because usually there's some kind of static, you know, and I'm trying to teach I'm learning through therapy to, you know, to walk away from things, to, you know, to be tough.
So your biggest issue is your fucking ego.
Yes, 100%. Okay. Yep.
David.
What up?
Your ego is shit, partner. Your ego is nothing.
Bullshit.
It's nothing. Listen to me. My biggest problem is my ego. Okay? And I still show egoistic ways every day. But my goal is not to eliminate my ego, but to bring it down each day, right? Because this is how I look at it. And it's when I explain this to you, it's going to be so fucking easy for you, partner, right?
I'm on.
The ego is the material plane. Everything that's material around you is your ego, right?
Yep.
You want to live in the spiritual plane. You want to live through the spirit. The spirit has nothing to do with ego. The spirit don't care about gold. The spirit don't care about clothes. It doesn't care about a house. It doesn't care about cars. It doesn't care about food. It doesn't care about any of these things because they understand that it's all material. The spirit understands that the universe provides everything that we need to survive.
That's right.
It's in our own minds that society has placed in that we need clothes, we need jewelry, we need acceptance from people. We need to make sure that people know that I'm a badass. This is all societal, just implementations. You know, that's what it is. So when somebody's standing in front of you and he steps on your foot, you say, "Hey, excuse me, partner, but you just stepped on my foot," you know? Now, the dude may look back at you and say, "Man, I don't give a fuck about stepping on your foot." What I'm going to say in that moment, David, now, back in the day, I would have cracked him, of course.
Yep.
Now, you know what I'm going to tell him? You know what? I apologize, man. That's my fault. I thought that you stepped on my foot. Because to me, it doesn't matter. I could care less what this dude thinks about me.
That's beautiful.
And I've been in enough skirmishes in my life to know that when this dude turns to me and says what he says, 9 times out of 10, he can't handle what I bring to him anyhow. And then I'm going to end up going to jail.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
So after learning that, now it's like, you know what? The first thing that pops in my mind is my child. That's it. And when I see my beautiful daughter's face and that's it, man, I picture that face. Like, what would my child want me to do? My child would want me to humble down and come home and play games with her and whatever. So you know what, dude? Okay, you keep your attitude. Doesn't bother me. And just like I say, as long as you don't put your hands on me, you could do whatever you want. It's not going to have no infliction on me. Because what happens, David, is when I allow that dude to control my emotions, I have no power over myself. This dude that I don't even know has more power over me than I do.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
You understand what I'm saying? So this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. Like, you want to be a tough guy with yourself. It's a lot harder to do right than it is to do wrong. It's easy to do wrong. And this is what I tell my daughter. When it comes a time that you don't know how to decide whether what you're doing is right or wrong, just stop and ask yourself, which way is the easiest way? Because that's usually the wrong way. You know, the right way is always having to put in work. The right way is always having to research. The right way is always having to swallow your pride and your ego.
Why
and
is
these
that,
are always the harder ways, you know? Because of ego, partner. Ego is the reason why we are in the position we are in the world, right? Because we have to be the bigger country, because we have to be the bigger military, because we have to have the biggest nuts. Oh, you know, all of these is all because of ego. You know, and I'm not a religious person. I'm not subscribed to any one religion, but I'm highly spiritual. And when I read the Bible, I interpret the Bible to mean exactly that. When we're born into the flesh, as the Bible says, right? We're born into a materialistic mindset. We're born into an ego because that's the first thing that we're taught. We're not taught the spirit first. We're taught the ego first. So as a child, we're constantly grabbing, we're constantly being taught material things are important in our lives. It's not until we get later in life do we understand that these material things have done nothing but cause us pain and strife, right? So that's when you start moving into a spiritual realm, which is what you call being born again, right? So now that you're in the spiritual realm, you've been born into the spiritual realm, which means that you've been enlightened on the universal law on how to conduct ourselves as human beings. And once you have that knowledge, you don't want to regress because you understand that this isn't you. Like after so many years of being incarcerated and around these people, it started dawning on me, like, you know, I'm looking around, I'm like, I don't belong here. You know, I don't belong here. I don't belong around these dudes. I'm sitting here trying to have a conversation about serious world topics, and these dudes want to talk to me about their cars and their shoes. Like, I don't belong here, you know? And that was it. That's when I made a decision, like, I'm done with this life, you know? So when your ego is taking over, David, that's when you have to, don't be the badass dude that's trying to control your ego. Be the badass dude on your ego. Nah, hell no, man. I'm not going that route. I've been there. I've done that. It's been nothing but painful and strife. I'm done with it. You know, give the dude a hug. And I'm telling you, partner, and I'm a pretty scary looking dude, trust me. You know, so when and it's funny because my daughter tells me all the time, like, Dad, you're scaring people. You know, you have to quit looking so mean. And I'm feeling like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm in a good mood. I'm smiling, you know. So, but because I've had such a hard life and I've been hardened in that way, I have to understand that that's the perception that I give off to people. So people are automatically going to be defensive around me, you know. So when I get that, I understand, okay, this dude feels threatened by me for some reason. So now he's trying to stick his chest out at me, you know. So you know what, that wasn't my intention. Let me humble down some and just, you know what, okay, partner, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to work you up. here, and I'll joke with him, here, let me give you a hug, man. You need a hug or whatever.
But
I'll
yeah,
make light of the situation, you know, and it's changed my life around, because when I start injecting the positive,
I believe that.
the positive comes back to
I've been
me,
hearing.
right?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you with that, but I believe. No, no, because that's
No, go
something
ahead,
that
partner. This
I
is your
keep
call.
hearing about, and I'm attracted to that topic for some reason, because I'm always negative. I find negativity out of beautiful things, and I'm tired of it. I'm fucking tired of
Okay. And I'm gonna tell you the same thing I told Blake. The reason why you allow negativity to penetrate your soul is because you have no wall of
No.
defense. You have no confidence about yourself, right? So the confidence is what shields these negativities off. When the negativity comes in, right? If you're positive and you're confident about something, you automatically discount that negative. So if you know that you're a good carpenter, and I say, you know what, David, your carpentry is shit, it may not bother you because you know that you're a good carpenter. But if I come and I tell you, you know what, David, you can't control your emotions, you're unstable, you're automatically going to let that negativity in because you believe that. You don't have confidence in that.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So you have to build that. You have to build that wall, and that starts, David, with you looking yourself in the mirror, right? This is what I want you to do: is first mirror you come across, look yourself in the mirror, look yourself in your soul, partner, in your pupils, and say, you know what? I'm not letting negativity affect me no more. Any negativity that comes to me, I'm going to find a positive in that versus the other way. Now, I don't want you to get discouraged, David, because this is muscle. You're working on muscle. And if you took steroids, you work out, you understand how long it takes to build muscle and shape muscle, right? So all you have to do, again, partner, baby steps. Take one little step at a time. You don't have to turn everything into a positive, but just start training your brain to start to think positive and find positive. And it's going to be so hard in the beginning, you're going to want to quit. But you just have to continue. And just like how starting a new workout routine, it takes you a couple weeks to get into that routine. But after them couple weeks, you're flying. You don't even get sore anymore. You can make it all the way through the workout. You see what I'm saying? Your brain is, your thought process and your brain is the same way. So you just have to turn that, and you have to continuously work at it. You're going to be straight, man. You ain't got nothing to worry about, Dave, for real. I thought I was going to get some dude that was going to be like off the chain. Man, you got your life straight, and you've already made the decision to turn that. All you have to do is not regress. Each day move forward. Each day move forward. David, in your spare time, when you have time to kill, don't kill that time, just doing frivolous things, right? Read a book, listen to a podcast, watch YouTube videos on just different topics, and start getting your mind focused on education. And I'm telling you, your world is going to change, because I can tell that you have an engineering type mind, right? And if you're a carpenter, I can tell that you can imagine things and you can build things.
Wow.
I already know. So as you start educating yourself, your world is going to open up, because your mind is going to start putting things together, and you're going to just start having all kinds of different ideas, and you're going to get your family out of the trouble that you're in, and life is going to progress there. But you have to keep moving forward, and you have to stay positive.
No, thank you.
So, absolutely, man. Listen, I love this call. I love you. Chris, I love your wife. I love your children, partner. You guys are going to be all right.
All right. Awesome.
I'm going to reconnect with you next week. Okay. And I'm going to give you a link. I'm going to send you a link. So anytime, like I told Blake, there's a link to my message board. So anytime that you may be going through something, I want to know your thought process. I want to know your feelings. So just leave me a message of what you're experiencing, the anguish, what caused the anguish.
Chris, thank you, man.
And then the next time we'll connect, we'll talk about it. All right?
It's on you. Thank you.
You're the man, partner. You got this, partner.
I will, brother.
You
Have a
got
great
this,
night.
man. I
Thank
know
you.
you got this. Take care of your family, partner.
Love
That's
you
all
too.
that
Bye.
matters. Take care of your family. Wear your mask. I love you. Take care.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. There's another sad story, man, but it's not really that sad, though, you know? Not to me. I don't really see David being in a bad spot. He's telling himself he's in a bad spot, but he really ain't, you know? He's together. His family is together. They're healthy. They're off drugs. You know, I have to believe David because I don't have any reason not to. You know, so I have to believe David. Until David gives me a reason not to believe him, then I'm going to believe him. I'm always going to give everybody the benefit of the doubt because I understand, you know. So, but you know, David, you're not in a bad spot, kid. You got your family together. You both love one another. You both are trying to survive, and you both are trying to improve life. You know, you have your child with you. And you're in a tough spot, true. But I think you're going to figure it out, David, man, because you want to. I can hear it in your voice that you really, really want to do it, you know. But just some key notes, you know, key notes that you have to consider is, one, you have to always recognize that your confidence is low, right? So you have to keep that in the forefront of your mind. That way, when you do start doubting yourself, you tell yourself, that's just me tripping. I'm tripping on myself, man. I'm bugging. Let me prove to myself that I can do this. You know? And that's what it's about. That's what I say about being the bully to yourself. When you want to run, no matter what it is, David, when you want to run or you want to quit, that's where you have to bully yourself. You know? That's where you have to beat yourself up. I've been running my whole life. I've been avoiding my whole life. It's time to make a change, you know, because you're spot on in what you say. Like, you want your kids to be able to look up to you and to respect you, you know, and that's where it starts at. That's what I'm learning myself right now. You know, I'm going through it with my daughter right now because, you know, I think it has a respect issue, you know. So I'm still trying to earn my daughter's respect, you know, because I've made a lot of egregious mistakes, and I have to earn that respect from my daughter, you know. So yeah, that's what it's about, you know. Even that they're their kids, we can't expect our children just to automatically respect us. We can't expect our children just to automatically like us, you know. We have to lead by example. You know, it's hard for a child to decipher why they shouldn't smoke cigarettes when their parents smoke cigarettes, yet their parents are telling them don't ever smoke cigarettes. You know, so it's very, very, and we do this all the time. You know, I'm guilty of it. You don't know how many times I'm driving with my daughter and I'm going 15 miles over the speed limit in and out of lanes without signaling. You know, I'm driving. That's how I drive. Right? But then I'll look at her and I'll tell her, don't ever drive like how I drive. I'm experienced. I've been driving like this for X amount of years. This doesn't mean that you can just jump in a car and drive like how I drive. But the point is that I'm exposing her to something that I don't want her to do. It makes no sense. Because I'm incapable of controlling myself to drive in the right lane or to drive properly, you know, like a responsible person. Which I'm not a bad driver. I have a safe driver on my license. It's not like I'm a reckless driver. But, you know, I like to dip. That's what we call it. Every once in a while, I like to put some good music on, and I like to, you know, dip through traffic, man. That's how I like to drive. But it is dangerous, and it is reckless at times, you know. So these are the hypocrisies that we show our children every day, and it causes strife and it causes confusion within them, because again, it's going unchecked and it's going unrecognized. We're not discussing it. We just tell our children, don't smoke, it's a bad habit, don't ever pick it up. And then 15 minutes later, I'm on the back porch and I'm smoking a cigarette. But there's no discussion there. We're not sitting our children down and we're saying, listen, this is why I say this. We just tell them, because we get into the mindset that these are our children and they just do what we tell them to do, and don't ask no questions. That was always the misnomer. Just do what I tell you to do and don't ask no questions. That's what my father used to tell me all the time. Go to your room. Why, Dad? Don't ask no questions. Just do what I tell you to do. And take your pants down when you get in there. And I would have no idea what the hell was going on. So again, now I look at it like it was nothing but a silly little ass whooping. Nothing to cry about. But yet in that moment, I was so frightened and so fearful because, one, I knew I was getting ready to have my ass whooped. Two, I knew that I was going to have to lie about something because I was getting my ass whooped about something that I didn't know, and I just couldn't tell my father I didn't know, so I had to create something, right? These are the traumas that are put in us. And as we grow older, we forget about them, and store them in the back and just wash them under. But then they start affecting our decisions. And then like David, like Blake, like everybody else, we don't understand why we're making these decisions. Because we want to do right, we're just making bad decisions. And next thing you know, we keep making bad decision after bad decision. It drives us further and further in despair. Next thing you know, we're drinking, we're doing drugs to try to get away from that despair because we don't like to hurt. Humans don't like to hurt. We're not built to hurt. We're not built for that, man. We're built for love. That's what we're built for. Companionship. We can be violent. There's no question about that. We can definitely be violent. But that violence is for survival. So I don't have too much more on this, man. I think it's the same story. I'm gonna get back in with David. I think the next time, what was her name? I'm sorry if I forget your name, dear. I think it was Cammie. But I want to hear from her. So I think the next time I'm gonna hear from her and get her story, and then try to piece, her and David together. And then see what we got, and then we'll just progress with them, man, and see how these people, how they survive. Because even though we're talking to one person, you might as well be talking to 5 million, no less than, no less than 5 million that are in the same position that David are in, scattered throughout our nation. And it's all from unchecked trauma, man. All of this is from unchecked trauma. And this is the trauma that we're applying to our citizens as a nation. The pressure and the stress of keeping up with the Joneses because, for whatever reason, and just all the pressures and stress that we put on each other for materialistic value, materialistic gain. So it's about awareness, man. It's about awareness, and it's all inflicted on our children. You think it's going to get better? You think by hiring in, voting in a new president, life is just going to change? Do you guys really honestly feel that? See, again, if that's how you feel, then again, that's running from the issue. Voting in Trump for another 4 years, voting in Biden for another 4 years or 8 years or whatever, voting in anybody is not going to change the nation. Only you yourself can change. Only you yourself can change the nation. Be responsible for your actions. When somebody's getting aggressive with you, humble yourself. The more they get aggressive, the more humble you become. You know, just these type of actions. You know, and if we instill these every day and move forward, then life will get better at that time. But not one man is just going to come into an office and just change life. It's just not going to happen. You know, it's just not that easy. It takes work. Doing the right thing takes work. It takes hard work. It takes dedication. It takes sacrifice. Or else everybody would do the right thing. That's the point. We run around trying to be men. I'm a man, but yet we can't even do the right thing. That's what a man is. A man does the right thing. To me, man, I had such the misperception of what a gangster was. You know, I thought me running around cracking people's skulls and doing that, I was a gangster. Man, you know what gangster is? Gangster is staying in school and making honor roll, putting in work. When people come in and trying to get you high and take you off your square, telling these people, nah, fool, I ain't with that stuff. That's gangster, for real. Now that's gangster. Going to college, getting a scholarship, a full scholarship, not for sports, but for your mind. Man, there's nothing more gangster than that. Because you're doing your own thing. That's what gangster is. You're doing your own thing. No matter what anybody else is doing, you're the trendsetter. You're doing your own thing. And there's nothing more gangster than that, I promise you. Wear your mask. I'm out.